Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, across the country. I really get excited on Tuesdays, man. It's the Rust Belt Report, I call it. We started out with Cleveland, Ohio, the American Sports History Podcast, hosted by my great friend Peter Ray, yours truly, Mark Mancini, producing it. 347-205-9631. You can catch the archive version on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. Podcast platforms are you subscribe to, powered by Mancini Media. So, without further ado, it's more of him, less than me. Let me lay the red carpet down, put the podium in its place, and hand off the mic. Peter, first of all, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? Third of all, it just seems like every week a different legend comes on your show, my friend. Just so blessed to produce this.
Hi, Mark. I'm doing well. I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Peter J. Ray, R-E-A, and you're absolutely right about tonight's guest. He's from Sacramento, California, lives in Seattle, Washington, went to Washington State University, had a 14-year career in the NBA with the Seattle Supersonics, San Diego Clippers, L.A. Clippers, Dallas Mavs, New York Knicks, and Utah Jazz. So, and he's an NBA All-Star, and that deserves a lot. All that deserves a lot of respect. But more importantly, he's come out with a book celebrating your gift of life, from the verge of suicide to a life of purpose and joy, which just came out on February 15th. And he's involved with public speaking regarding mental health, doing a lot of wonderful work. Welcome to the show, Mr. James Donaldson.
Hey, all right. Good afternoon, everyone. How you guys doing today?
Oh, fine. Everything's fine. Now we only have a half-hour show. I know you had a wonderful career, and I know you're working hard. I mean, to be honest, I've had severe depression. I had 2 years. I wanted to die every day, believe it or not. And so anyway, this is and you think there's so many talented people who suffered from depression and never recover, and it's such a tragedy because they can't contribute. So, would you like to talk about your book, Celebrating Your Gift of Life?
Yeah, I sure will. And don't forget, it's not just the talented people that suffer from this. It's your next door neighbor. It might be in your own family, folks who are right next to you who suffer. But because it's the issue of mental health challenges, mental health issues, on the external, we look fine. We look normal as always, unless we're, balled up in tears all day long. But most of us aren't like that. Most of us are just trying to get through the day, struggling with whatever we're struggling with. And so this is one of those things I found out about mental health challenges, is that you have to first be able to identify that something's not quite right with you, and then be able to reach out for help, medical professional help I'm talking about, and be able to get the team around you that can really help pull you through this thing. And that's what I did. I went through 12 months of pure darkness, depression, despair, only in 2018, so 3 years ago. And it took me until 2019 to finally work my way out of that thing. And here I am, back to my old self again. I'm out speaking all over the place. I had 2 great speaking opportunities last week, one at my alma mater, Washington State University, speaking to about 500 or 600 students, and the other one down at Joint Base Lewis McChord, the Army base just south of Seattle, where they have had 1 suicide a month all year long. So they're at 10 suicides already right there on the base. So this is something that's very, very prevalent in our society and our communities, and we just have to start addressing it and paying attention to it.
Yeah, it's wonderful that you're shining a spotlight on it, because so often people don't. They keep quiet. They're ashamed, and of course, if you're depressed, you have low self-esteem, and then it's you just keep it. It's like a private hell you're living with. Tyler from Spokane, Washington. Welcome to the show. He's mentioning your nickname was Big Game James.
Yes.
Anyway, so I think it's wonderful that since you've had depression, I would imagine today, it's amazing, and life can turn around, And, when you have depression, you feel you're worthless, your life has no meaning. But today, I mean, you're an example of you must feel really good because you're helping a lot. Your life has great meaning today. And so that must be really something tremendous.
Absolutely. I look back over my career, my years of things, doing things, and I've done a lot of good things, a lot of great things throughout, but this, what I'm doing now, and I call it my next chapter of life, being a voice and an advocate for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. This, by far, is my most rewarding work I've ever done because I touch people right where they are, and I get them to get in touch with themselves. And if they are struggling with issues such as depression or what have you, they really get moved to start getting the help that they need. I was suffering from the whole gamut, the depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations. I had it all planned out how I was going to exit this world. And luckily, I was able to stop short of that, way short of that, and get the help I needed. And that's what I'm trying to encourage everybody out there to do.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. Like I said, I had these 2 years where I wanted, and I planned my death and suicide, and I'm so glad. And I did have a recovery. I recovered with really through God's grace, I think, and probably prayers. I'm sure prayers of others, and then I'm so glad I'm alive. And during that 2-year darkness, I had no hope, and I thought, well, it would never get better, but it did, and sometimes you just have to go through it, and I'm so glad. Here it's been how many years now, and I'm so glad I'm alive today. And so the work you're doing, helping people to get through darkness, so that they can do the things they were meant to do, and they're needed. We're all needed. We all have a role to play. So this is tremendous. Daniel from Kensington, Pennsylvania, says, "Hey James, how has the NBA changed? It seems it just." To him, it just seems like it has gotten too political these days.
Yeah. Well, I tend to agree with that. I don't watch many NBA games anymore because it just really bothers me how politicized they've become, how socially active they've become. I mean, when you see Black Lives Matter painted on the sidelines and on the end courts and on everywhere in the arena. It just really becomes a political, social statement instead of what the love of the game is all supposed to be about. Sports brings people together from all walks of life and all backgrounds, all cultures, all languages, and we come together for that hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and we are cheering on our teams. We are enjoying the moment of sports, and we need to take politics and social activities out of the game of sports. I don't mind the players speaking up from time to time if they know what they're talking about. Some of them don't, unfortunately. But, that's fine. They have a platform, and in this day of social media, everybody has a platform, so they go ahead and use it. But I think the commercialization and the blending of the social movements and the politics and sports, we should separate them back out and just let sports be sports for itself.
Back to this topic of your book and your work with mental health. It's important to win in life, to achieve, and so forth. But one of the things I used to think of is, it's important to be a winner. But I think even better than being a winner is helping losers become winners. And of course, none of us are really losers, but we really are losers in the sense when we're stuck in a depression, we can't function. And so if you can help a person get out of that and get through that time, get to the end of it, because I believe it will come to it, and sometimes we have to go through it. And so to me, I just think, I have tremendous respect for your achievements in the NBA. You have to have respect for that. But the thought, just thinking about, helping people get through depression and stay alive, and then the good that they can do, and then the ripple effect. And it's just so I just feel and so you must look back, think to yourself, wow, I got through that, and so you must feel really amazed, about it all. And I think it's just such an inspiring story, your life.
Thank you. Thank you. And like you, I feel it's God's grace that brought me through. I'm a faithful man, faith-based man, Christian man. I go to church every Sunday. I've done that from the time I was a little boy. So I know that God has seen me through this. I asked questions why he let me go through it in the first place, of course, but I knew even in the darkest of darkness that God was there. And in fact, he was holding my hand, because I really believe if I was trying to hold his hand, I most likely would have let go, and that would have been it. So he was holding me and guided me through it. And when the darkness started lifting just a little bit towards the end of those 12 months, God, again, inspired me and spoke to me and said, James, you've got a platform. You're a former professional athlete. You're a larger-than-life individual at 7'2". You're an African-American male man who can speak, who can show other people that it's not anything wrong with asking for help. It's okay not to be okay. And that's really my big task in front of me, is working with our young school-age children, middle school and high school kids, and men, especially men from communities of color, because we just won't reach out for help. We do all kind of crazy self-destructive behaviors, drinking, drugs, promiscuity, gambling, addictions, all kind of craziness. And it only gets worse. We have to reach out to each other and rely on each other to help us get through these things.
Yeah, I agree with you that, God does exist. He's this very loving being who created us, and he has a plan for us and wants us to. He gave us life. He wants us to continue living, and you're right. We have this role. We're brothers and sisters. We have a role to play in life. I think it's really inspiring. Your story. Lynn from Terre Haute, Indiana, said he asked who are the toughest players you played against in the NBA, the best cities you visited. He had a friend who played in the NBA, and he said no, they didn't like Memphis or Minnesota. He also says that your story is very eloquent.
Thank you. Well, when people ask me the best player, the toughest player, the all-time greatest player, I usually have a couple of different categories. I say the toughest player for me to play against was Moses Malone. Moses was a whirlwind, devilish derby out there, nonstop energy, rebounding like crazy, especially offensive rebounding, blocking shots, could score with the best of them. And then after Moses started winding down a little bit, along came Hakeem Olajuwon, a new improved version of Moses. Not quite as rugged, but just the same energy, the same way that he played the game. The most unstoppable player, though, was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Absolutely unstoppable. And big left-handers like myself and Artis Gilmore and Bob Lanier and Nate Thurman, we would jump as high as we could with our left hand trying to contest that right-handed skyhook. And he would just flick it over our hand just by a couple of inches. And by the time we both landed on the ground, on the floor, and we turn and look, the ball is nestling through the net, time and time again. Abdul-Jabbar is my GOAT. I know they talk about Michael, they talk about LeBron, but nobody did the things that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did on a consistent 22-year career.
Yeah, when the Bucks won this year, I saw he went to some of those home games in the finals, and they showed him, and I remember '71 with him there and winning their first title, and so it was great. It was wonderful seeing him. Aaron from Visalia, California, welcome to the show. Aaron says that he lost 3 friends to suicide, never saw it coming. Yes, what are the signs for suicide? And he thanks you and me for not giving up and sharing about this.
Thank you. Well, there are signs to watch out, and one of the things that really was the catalyst for making me doggedly determined to make it through this, because at the very deepest, darkest part of it all, probably in January 2018, I was just really at that point of going back to my home and exiting this world, committing suicide. Matter of fact, the lowest point was February 2018, at the NBA All-Star Weekend down in Los Angeles. I, as a board of director for the retired NBA players, was there with our board directors and meeting with Adam Silver and all of Adam's staff. And I told Adam Silver then, face to face, I said, Adam, I'm suicidal, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I have suicidal ideations, I need help, and I don't think I'm going to make it through the weekend. And matter of fact, I couldn't make it through the weekend. I made it to Saturday morning before I finally just got on the plane and went back to Seattle, so I could be in the comforts of my own home instead of in that lonely hotel room that I kept seeing myself ending my life. And it would have been the most tragic weekend for NBA All-Star to have a fellow All-Star player take his life during that weekend with a national and global audience that we have. That was the most desperate time I was at. But the catalyst for me really doggedly determining myself to make it through was when a young student athlete at my alma mater, Washington State University, took his life with a shotgun blast to his head on the campus of Washington State back in January 2018. Tyler Helinski, a young up-and-coming football player. He was going to be the starting football quarterback for the WSU football team. He had the world in the palm of his hands, and he killed himself. And everybody for the next week or two was running around trying to tell Tyler's story, how great a kid he was, how they didn't see it coming, how he would never do this. And I said, no. I don't want anybody running around trying to tell my story. I'm gonna make it through, and I'm gonna get out there and be able to tell my story. So that's where those two pivotal points, Tyler killing himself and the NBA All-Star Weekend in February 2018, were the 2 points that I really kept on saying, I got to make it through. And I still had 10 or 11 months ahead of me of pure darkness before I finally made it through that.
Yeah, it's such a tough topic, and a lot of people don't want to hear about it. But of course, when somebody does die, and then they're gone, like, oh my God, this guy's gone, and he took his life, and we need to talk about it, even though it's extremely painful, and people, like I said, who wants to hear me say every day I thought about killing myself, I thought about hanging myself, or I even researched on the internet every method of suicide, and I was but anyway, I look back on, I think, okay, I got through it, and I remember at the end it was something I had to go through. Nick from McKeesport, Pennsylvania says Moses Malone was a beast, total domination, never played college. He says, how good was artist Gilmore? He was unbelievable in the ABA.
Yes. Artist and I were like mirror bookends of each other. We're big, strong left-handers, same size, 7'2", 280 pounds. And when we banged against each other down at that low post, everybody got out of our way because we are just slamming each other. And Artist was a terrific player. He doesn't get a lot of the credit he's due because he didn't win a lot of championships. He won one in the ABA with the Kentucky Colonels, but he never won one in the NBA. And even though he had great statistics throughout, probably 22 and 11, 22, 12, whatever he averaged, he just never really got the recognition because he wasn't on those big market teams, for one thing. He played in San Antonio for most of his career. He played in Kentucky with the Kentucky Colonels. I think they're in Louisville, aren't they? So he just never was really on the national media map. He played in Chicago at the very end of his career. No, actually before San Antonio. He played in Chicago, but Chicago wasn't a good team then. So the big guys they talked about was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dave Cowens, Bob Lanier, Bill Walton back in those days. Artist got a little bit overlooked, but he was one of the most fantastic and, to me, the most physically strong player I ever played against. I remember one time trying to get around him. He just lifted me up on his elbow and took my feet off the ground. And I'm spinning my feet in the air, and he's holding me up 280 pounds. That's Artist Gilmore.
Ronald from Peoria, Illinois, welcome to the show. He said, we need more shows like this. Thank you, Peter and James. Yeah, back to this topic of depression. Any other thoughts about getting through and how to help people, who might be have severe depression? What people can do to help?
Be on the lookout for someone whose behavior seems a little bit off. They seem distant. They seem sullen. They seem quiet. They seem sad. They're not giving off that energy that people normally do. They're off by themselves. They might be mentioning or talking about suicide, or they might be giving away their personal belongings and tidying things up so they can exit this world. Be on the lookout for those kind of behaviors. The last thing anybody in depression wants to hear or wants to be is judged. So when you saddle up next to somebody to offer your friendship and your companionship, maybe it's best just to be quiet and listen. Even if they're quiet, you might sit there for an hour in quietness, but after a while, they'll finally start opening up and confiding in you what's going on with them. But the worst thing you can do is come at them accusatory or judgmental. You should do this, you should do that, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. That's the last thing anybody in depression wants to hear. We need uplifting messages and confidence to boost our confidence again, and reassurance that everything is going to be all right. And that's what everybody can do to their friend or loved one who is going through this very difficult time.
I had a lot of encounters with the mental health field, and the thing is, I noticed a lot. They go to school, they have their degrees, but a lot of them weren't effective because one, they look down on the guy, or they're cold-hearted. The people I met, they were kind people, and that was healing. And we Americans were a very busy people, we were very productive people, but oftentimes we fail in this the issue of giving people time and being respectful and kind and patient. Yeah. And like you said, listening. Everyone's busy and they're poor listeners. So it's such an important topic. Do you have anything else to say about this very important topic?
Let me say this, Peter. One of the reasons there's such a reluctance on the part of communities of color to seek help, especially for mental illness, is because it's been such a big stigma, such a taboo in our communities. I'm talking African American communities, Hispanic communities, Native American, Asian communities. It's looked down so much on as a taboo, as a stigma, and no one there talks about it. One of the things that I'm trying to do with I started up a nonprofit foundation called Your Gift of Life Foundation. Can be found at yourgiftoflife.org. Is having the beneficiary of the monies we raise. I raise money through my speaking engagements, through contributions of folks who want to be supportive. We want to raise money so we can provide scholarship tuition to students of color going into the mental health profession. We need more and more mental health professionals of color. Of the tens of thousands of mental health professionals across the country, only 3% are of color, and less than 1% is African American. My doctor connected me with a mental health professional who was a young, mid-20 Caucasian woman. She had no idea how to relate to me or what I was going through. Her best advice to me was to go home and count sheep so I could get to sleep at night. I'm like, please, lady, you have no idea what I'm going through. And she couldn't relate to me as a man. She couldn't relate to me as an African American. She had no idea. And so we need more mental health professionals of color so they can go back to their communities they come from and provide these much-needed services.
Benny from San Isidro, California, welcome. Benny says it seems like everybody listens to negative things and it affects them. Yeah, we are exposed to so much negativity, I think, which is wear people out. He says, faith takes you through problems. What a show. I can listen for hours to you both. There's the movie Patch Adams where this if you've seen it, the character's in a mental hospital, and he meets a psychiatrist, and he says, "Oh, I'm ready to be released. I know what I want to do with my life." He says, "I want," and the doctor says, "Oh, what's that?" He says, "I want to help people." And the doctor says, "Well, that's what I do." And then Pat says, "Yeah, but you suck at it." Because you meet these cold people who they think they're making good money. Oh, I'm doing my job, I'm getting paid, and they're horrible because they're so cold and and they're not respectful, right? It's horrible. So anyway,
yes, that's
any
right.
thoughts?
Well, we have to speak up and let people know what we need when we're going through these very difficult times. You know, I write in my book, it's okay to be an asshole every now and then, okay? And I'm not an asshole by nature. I'm very, very polite, very professional all the time. But once in a while, you've got to say, God damn it, I got to take care of me. I have to take care of me. And if you're having a bad day, make sure you take care of you. And that way, get yourself a good night's sleep, get yourself the help you need, and prepare for the next day. You have to be able to take care of you. So many of us keep on giving and giving and giving, and we have nothing left to give to anyone else or to ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves, especially when you're dealing with mental health issues.
Alice from Las Vegas, Nevada, welcome. She says, "Great call, James. Seems like she and others are counting sheep these days." You know, I think it's you know what you're talking about here, and especially for you here. You're a former NBA player, so you have probably people coming at you, and now in your work, so you can. And you know, you're right. We have to. I'm working as an elderly caregiver right now. You have to get enough sleep, have a balanced life, and yeah, you can get involved with help. We need to help others, but we also have to have a reasonable, healthy lifestyle. So, and I'm sure you're having that challenge. You probably have this issue where you're doing too much and running out of gas.
Well, no, I've learned to balance. I've learned to pace myself. I've learned to take care of me. Actually, the speaking engagements I do are somewhat therapeutic for me because each and every time I get very emotional. I choke up, like even now talking to you about these things. I cry. But that's very, very healing, and it helps me realize how real this was that I went through. It wasn't some little, flight in the pan or just a week or two. It lasted 12 long months, and some people it lasts 12 long years. You have to be able to get the help that you need. And so my encouragement to everybody is to realize that this life we have is such a gift. We have to treasure it. We have to cherish it. We have to value it. We can't discount it, and by no means can we ever choose to end it. Please don't ever choose that choice. Get yourself help, and help is readily available. The National Suicide Prevention Line. I'm a board member with NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. Chapters all over the country. You just give them a call. They'll give you the resources, the phone numbers, the people you need to contact, free of charge, right away. And you just have to be able to do those things.
Yeah, it's wonderful. What I went through was from July of 2011 to July of 2013, and it's like it's over now. I got through it, but talking to you now, I mean, I every day was being awake was painful. The only relief I had was sleep. Every moment, and being around and I knew I was hurting other people, and I was just so miserable. And so anyway, it's not that I want to relive that, but for those, I know, because the thing is, I know other people are going through it right now, and so I think it's wonderful what you're doing to help people get through it, so they, like you said, so they don't kill themselves, so they get through that time and get help and survive and stay alive, and then live the life God meant for them and do the wonderful things God meant for them to do.
Right. Peter, let me say this. The experts are predicting the next pandemic, after this one is over, this COVID-19 and Delta and all the rest, after this is over, the next pandemic coming on its heels is one of mental health challenges and issues, depression, anxiety, social isolation, loneliness, just people being just totally frustrated the last couple of years. And so this is what we are trying to do and prepare people for, because there are not enough mental health therapists for everybody. So you have to be able to take care of yourself and do a gut check and say, wow, I need to reach out for some help and get some more resources on board. I brought together a small group of intimate friends that really helped me through this as well. Two of them are my all-time favorite coaches, Coach George Raveling at Washington State University and Coach Lenny Wilkins, who coached me with the Seattle Supersonics. Both these guys are in their mid-80s now. But like a pair of crutches, they were on one side and the other of me, walking me through this very, very difficult time. Coach Raveling told me, he said, James, I knew you when you were a high school kid, 40-plus years ago. You've worked way too long and way too hard to throw it away, and I'm not going to let you throw it away. See, so having people like that alongside you will help you get through this kind of thing.
I'm glad you brought up Lenny Wilkins, one of my favorite people here. I didn't know him personally, or don't know him personally, but he coached in Cleveland, played in Cleveland, and anyway, the time has flown by. It's hard to cut this off here. Our guest has been Mr. James Donaldson, played 13 years in the NBA, an all-star. He's got a book out, Celebrating Your Gift of Life book, and he has an important speaking career in the mental health field. Mr. James Donaldson, do you have any final words for our audience?
Yes, my book not only tells my story, but gives a lot of helpful strategies and hints at the end of every chapter. Several pages of lines that you can write your own story in there. If you want it personally signed by me, order it from celebratingyourgiftoflife.com. It's the website to that book. It comes directly to me. I see the order. I send it right back out to you, personally signed directly to you. And let me say also, my depression was brought on by life events. I had major open heart surgery in January 2015, 4 major surgeries in 5 years. January 16, my mother passed away. My wife walked out on her marriage. My business, 28 years with the Donaldson Clinic, floundered and finally shut down. I exhausted all of my NBA life savings, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars I had saved up for retirement. I spent it all trying to save my business. I filed for bankruptcy. I had foreclosure on my home I lived in for 40 years. I was near eviction. I went through all of those things, and I can relate so well to what just about anybody out there is going through. I didn't have any drug issues or any drinking issues or substance abuse. No, I don't do those kind of things. Mine were life events that can happen to anybody at any point in their lives.
We've had a big audience tonight, 355 people. With Mark Mancini says we have to get you back, and people are clamoring for you, Mr. James Donaldson.
Thank you. Well, I'm here to help as many people as we possibly can, and I'd love to come back on your show, do a part 2 anytime you and Mark are ready for it. No problem with me.
Well, that's wonderful. Again, I'd love to keep going, but we are out of time. Next week we have Gary Kinn, who's a boxing expert with an insight on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Our guest has been Mr. James Donaldson. Wonderful, wonderful, inspiring interview. Dear listener, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Good night, everybody. Thanks again, Mr. James Donaldson.
Good night. Thank you. Good night now.
Okay, God bless you. Okay.
All right.